Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Caseware webinar. Today, we're going to be looking at the ISA 600 updates. That's for our UK Company Audit Mercia app in the cloud. So that's our Cloud Audit app. And this is an intermediate level webinar. So we are assuming some prior knowledge of using our Cloud Audit apps. As I say, this is going to be focusing on ISA 600 changes and other changes that have been introduced in the latest update. My name is Tom Jeffrey. I'm one of the education and media technicians for Caseware UK, and I'm going to be overseeing the webinar today, making sure everything runs smoothly and going through your questions and that kind of thing. Jonathan Miller, our product manager for Audit, is going to be taking you through the content today. So we'll hand over to Jonathan very shortly and have a look at the agenda. Before we do that, I'm just going to go through a quick bit of housekeeping, which is the usual kind of stuff, really. Which is that if you have a question, use the Q&A option there on the toolbar. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We'll do our best to answer any questions live. If we don't get back to you directly during the session, then we'll do so afterwards. And any questions will also go into a Q&A document. That will accompany the recording of the webinar, which will go onto our YouTube channel. It's also going to go onto our help site, and we'll signpost those a bit later on. So that is the housekeeping out of the way, and we're just going to jump to the agenda, and I'll hand over to Jonathan.
Okay, thanks, Tom, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this update. So as you can see there on the screen, we're going to be looking at just briefly, really, some of the ISA 600 content that came from Mercia in terms of the focus mainly on component auditors and their work. Then we're going to be looking at the new, the update to our statistical sampling form that we've been putting through, and also the new judgemental sampling form that Mercia have also introduced into their audit methodology, and see how that all fits in. Then we're going to go through a few features that we've been adding over this past few months to come into this next update. Going to look at some audit response tables that we put in, the enablement of the risk library, and then finally the new partner manager summary document. So hopefully those will all be new elements which will help you to review and to add a bit to your audit work. So I think what we'll do is we'll go straight to the content. So I'm going to stop that screen share there and bring my screen up here. So hopefully you can see our screen, which should look fairly familiar to you in terms of the document manager that we've got on Company Audit. Now, just a note that although we're doing this for Company Audit, we hopefully will be releasing both Company and Republic of Ireland in early June. And then following that, you'll get the updates for the various other templates as well. There are further updates due later in the year, mainly at the platform level, particularly in relation to work that component auditors can do. I can't show you that just yet, but that'll be something we'll be looking at toward the latter end of the summertime, and probably in September time. So what have we got in terms of content changes for ISA 600? Well, to be absolutely honest, there's not a great deal of change. There are, as I've said, the main focus from ISA 600 is really on identifying the components. What is a component of the audit? It's not just necessarily a subsidiary anymore or something like that. And although we'll be looking at significance of components, we've really got to look at the identification and then the impact of that component on the audit. So in actual fact, a component could just be a branch of an entity, or maybe a stock holding area or something like that. So this is the main theoretical change, shall we say, that comes out of ISA 600. So the first screen I've got, the first document I've got on the screen there is the B30CA. This is like an extension of the B30, just focusing on component auditors and the group audit approach relating to components. And at the moment, on what you can see on screen is what is currently in the template itself. So it's just where you assess the significance of each component. Now, this is the one bit which Mercia have enabled to that you will have the option of choosing to apply ISA 600 early or not, because as most of you will be aware, ISA 600 is for accounting periods starting after the 15th of December 2023. So essentially, largely your 2024 December 2024 year ends. But of course, you can apply them early. And in actual fact, most of this, the content update that has come from Mercia has been designed so that you will get it straight away, because again, most of it is actually just best practice work anyway. The ISA really was just refining that best practice in many ways. So on that basis, you will get, when you get this update, you will get the ISA 600 content, regardless of whether it's particularly applicable to that accounting period. However, this is one choice where you can choose to do either an early adoption or group order or the original review of your components. And we just got a note here in the guidance that tells you that just complete one of this group audit approach. After the deadline of the period end has moved, you will only get the ISA 600 version. So that's the original, and you only need to complete one of these. So it's not a great deal of difference in many ways, but there's just that focus on identifying each component and the influence that that will have on the audit work that's going to be performed at the component. And so you'll just identify each component here, the reasons why it is defined as a component, and then the influence on the work that will be performed at the component and on the overall planned audit approach for the group as a whole. So that's the B30CA document. We've also got the B26 communication, review of the risk assessment of the component auditors. That has been extended, expanded. There's a lot more procedures, particularly on the communication with group auditor requirements. So that's something that just be aware of, that will be a little bit more detail in respect of understanding and assessing the risk of your component auditors. The other main document relating to component auditors, again, is PF19. Again, it's just a reference tool, really, of the of each component and the auditor's names, and understanding that component auditor again. Again, that's not really changed, but what has changed is this guidance. That's really the bit that's been really expanded by Mercia for their ISA 600 content detail. And so these are the things that you've got to consider. So really make sure you're looking at the guidance notes that we have on the side here, and that will help you then complete this document in the way it needs to be completed. Moving through, we've also got the review, of course, at the end, the A53 review of component auditors, and really the matters. Again, this is a section that's been expanded, the matters for the component auditor to communicate to the group auditors, and it's really just going through those changes. So and that is really it in terms of the actual ISA 600. That is where we are. There is one other minor change that's come through in this first half of the year from Mercia as well, not related to ISA 600, but it's obviously we've brought this in as well. And this is an A29-1 document, which is to record your considerations about other information which will be published alongside the financial statements. So again, that's been extended or included now for you to consider. Tom, I see we have got a question at this point. So before I move on to some of the other items, shall we have a look at that question?
John. Yes, so we've got a couple of questions have come in actually regarding group audits. It may be something that we can look into and provide guidance after the session, but I can read them out for you if you're happy for me to do so.
Well, I can see the one question from the anonymous attendee regarding that. So in many ways, that best practice of the group will develop over this year. As I said, there are some system changes coming in toward the end of this year as well. So I think what we will do is we will provide that. We will start putting that material into the pipeline as you suggest, and that will be coming out a bit later on. Particularly in terms of what we're going to do is going to look at how you can, within the group audit itself, actually partition off some component audit work from within the engagement file as well itself.
We did actually have, I believe the second question was connected, which was, will there be changes? Will the changes only apply where you use the consolidated file setup, or will it be brought in from the tailoring module?
Okay, yeah. So obviously these documents relating to component auditors will only come in if you selected it on the tailoring at the top. Obviously, when you're using a consolidated file setup, you would select those as being relevant. So there is a separate question on component auditors. If you haven't got any other component auditors, then that communication with the other component auditors will drop off. So it's mainly driven from the tailoring side, as opposed to just whether you're in a consolidated, but obviously you'll be responding to those questions. Okay, all right, good. Right, if that's the case, we'll move on then now. And so what I'd like to have a look at first is some of the work that we've been doing on the sampling form and the new sampling form that's coming in from Mercia. Now, the sampling form feeds off a lot of the other information in the audit file. So first of all, of course, we've got the materiality document. And again, there will be some changes to this going forward when we come to September time, particularly in relation to groups and components and how that component materiality is allocated and moved around the group audit. So, but for now, we have our so I have got a consolidated setup here. And so you will have your benchmarks at the top, as always. You will have your entities at the moment here on this screen, and you can select their materiality and the overall group materiality. And then, of course, performance materiality, similarly by component and by the entity as a whole. Trivial misstatements, and then the audit areas requiring other areas of materiality. And this has always been there, but we've been tidying this up in how it relates to the sampling form itself. So, for instance, I've selected here trade debtors. You'll see this the use of this in a minute. I've selected a planning materiality of 20,000 for trade debtors and a performance materiality of 15,000. Also related to that, of course, is the risk assessment section. So again, under the risk assessment, there's nothing particularly we've changed here for this time, but your entries that you choose on here will flow through, as we'll see in a moment, to our sampling form. So this is the judgmental sampling form. This is the, if you like, the existing sampling form that's already in the template, which we're now just updated slightly to get it working more closely with the materiality documents and that risk assessment form. So you can select a parent materiality if you wish to be used in the document. Or on this case, I've selected not, so I'm going to use the overall group materiality. You then can drill down. You can select your individual audit area that you wish to look at, and then it will then give you the options of selecting from the trial balance the bits that are related to that individual audit area. So you can drill down if you want to at a more detailed trial balance level. What that will do then is it will pop up here. It will show you the assertions that you've selected, because at the moment you have to select those relevant assertions for each audit area. Those which you have selected will appear here, but then of course you may not be testing every single one of those assertions, so you just select which assertions that you are considering, and the information of those, of the inherent risk that you selected, of those assertions that you've identified, will feed through at the bottom. So you can see existence and valuation were both valued here as 3 on the inherent risk level. You then just fill out the format as you already always will have done. This is obviously pulling the valuation directly from the trial balance. So you've selected trade debtors, and that's giving you the trade debtors balance here. You will then have your area, your performance materialities being brought through. So a reminder, of course, that tolerable misstatement, which is what you're selecting here, can't be greater than your performance materiality. The performance materiality of the group as a whole was 75,000, but if you noted, we selected materiality for the trade debtors at 15, and that is the tolerable misstatement which I've selected here. If I did try and go above that, that should pop up a warning which will tell me that the audit area's performance material can't be greater than that if that is what I am using. And that's what's feeding in here. So you've got the option of selecting the overall materiality. If I'd selected parent, you would also have the option of the parent materiality here, but then also the materiality by the audit area specific, which is what I've chosen. So that's why the 20,000 has fed in from the materiality form now. And that's a bit that we've focused on. Also, we've removed, there was an error previously because it spoke about having performance materiality at this stage in this box, and that is incorrect. So it should have always been materiality, not performance materiality. So that's what's showing here now. You then select your value change of how you're going to select those that sample. Now, there's a lot of discussion, I know, over the years on this 60 being the initial sample size. That is now able, you can revise that. So Mercia have added to their methodology the option of saying, actually, is that initial sample size right or wrong? So you can now overwrite that if you wish. So I can go into that field and change it. If I do, let's go at 70, for instance, you'll see there you get it's sort of shaded pink to give you a little bit of warning, and also you will have a justification as to why you have selected that as a sample size, as the initial sample size. So that's changed, giving you that option of changing from 60. You then have the deductions as before. Now I've got down here my inherent risk by assertion that we saw earlier have come in at 3 and 3. So perhaps my my assessed risk should not be high. It perhaps should probably be medium now. So that will give me a different deduction of 10. Your reliance on controls, that will come through from again from what you've been thinking about in your risk assessment, and also whether there's any other analytical work that's going to deduct that. That then works out the materiality factor based on your materiality figure and your residual population, gives you the deduction and gives you an overall number. But even now, again, this is the addition, the change that's come into Mercia's choices here, that you can actually say, even now, is that the right amount? Is that the appropriate number to be testing? And you can overwrite that. And again, I have overwritten that in this case. I've gone from no and I've said 40. But again, you must justify it. So there's a lot more flexibility and judgment being brought about into that judgmental sampling form. Again, Tom, I see we've got a new question on that.
So a question regarding the type of form that we're looking at the moment. So are these new style forms triggered by the year-end date input when setting up the audit file?
No, so this new style form will be the new one that appears in the template when it is released. So that will be this new style form. This isn't actually related to any particular year-end date or anything like that. This is just best practice that Mercia have updated. So as soon as you get this response, as soon as you get this update, you will have this update, this new form coming through. And similarly, you will now get the statistical sampling form. So if I just jump to here, you'll see again, it's very similar in many ways. We've basically used the same top half of this document. So you can select the same elements and come down. You've still got the same question about tolerable misstatement. You see there again, I've overdone my tolerable misstatement. So I'll have to correct that before I can carry on. But what happens here now is there is a new way of calculating which you can choose, which is the statistical way of choosing your sample size. So you've got the same detail above. Now, what this runs off, though, is the risk of material misstatement. So if you remember before, we were looking at the inherent risk. This document now actually feeds off the detail that you've got to on your risk assessment for your risk of material misstatement at the end. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And again, depending on what you selected up above, in terms of the assertions you're looking at, those assertions will give you a guidance as to therefore what you should be choosing for your risk of material misstatement. So I've chosen 2 in this instance. And that feeds into this box down here, which is a confidence factor table. And so in actual fact, so you get your risk of material misstatement in your sample that you've got. You then match that across against other work that you're doing. So again, we've said it's going to be moderate work that we're doing. And in this case, it's highlighted we have a confidence factor figure of 0.18. And that is something that then is a multiplier against the value of residual population, your tolerable statement that you've chosen, multiply that by the confidence factor, and that actually brings out your sample size. You can see in this case, we've only ended up with a sample size of 4. That's largely because we have a relatively high level of statement compared to the form, and then this confidence factor of 0.18, which has clearly reduced that sample size. But even then, you will need to conclude and make your judgment on the sample and explain why that sample size is reasonable. Obviously, different figures will give you different results. But there you go. So hopefully that is this new form, which has been provided by Mercia. It's been added to methodology in the last year, and that is now going to be available once we get that released into each of the templates. No other questions on the sampling forms. Okay, so what I'll do is I will move on now to the risk. No, I will move on to the audit response tables that we've added. Okay, so again, what we've had in the past is a bit of a lack of linking up, I would suggest, between the information we've been looking at on this planning form, on the risk assessment form, and some of the work that we've been doing on the B40, where you've been selecting your areas. And in actual fact, you've been selecting assertions to consider on B40, and it's not actually been going anywhere. So what we've actually got now at the top of each of the B40, in each section, you have a basic summary of the selections that you've made on that risk assessment screen. So on the risk assessment screen, as you can see again, those risk levels are feeding through in terms of what of those decisions that we made on the risk assessment. And you'll still select your audit areas that you're going to consider here. So your 3 audit areas at this point are the C, D, and E sections, where you'll be looking at procedures with related to individual assertions. So that's now sort of flowing, that flow of information is coming through. And then that is going to now flow down also into the work program itself. So here we are, I'm in my debtors work program, and we have what is known as this audit response table. Now, again, if you've been familiar with the desktop product over the years, there has been an audit response table in there, which sort of gives you that guidance of what have you chosen as your assessment of risk at the planning level, and how is that feeding through to the work that you're actually doing. And so what we've got here, you will have this response table. You will actually select here, well, again, from that guidance we've received earlier, which sections you're looking at and which assertions within each section you're going to be considering. And so the little warnings will come up because if you look down here in the C section, I've selected a procedure which has got lots of different assertions associated with it, but I've not actually selected those assertions up here. So it's warning me I'm potentially over auditing because that decision hasn't been made. But if we just simply select those areas, that will give us a summary then of the work that we're actually doing within this audit area. Similarly, if we have selected and actually say you were going to do a rights and obligation, you've said you were going to do a rights and obligations procedure, analytical procedure, but you haven't selected any procedures relating to it yet. So again, in order to remove that, you would either remove the tick or you would have to select a procedure further down. Similarly with test of details. So for instance, on test of details, I haven't got any procedures selected there. And at the moment, it's saying that I want to consider valuation. So I reveal my hidden procedures here, and I select a valuation procedure. Actually select it. Yep. Should find out, therefore, my my warning about valuation will hopefully disappear. Just select it. No, I didn't select it, didn't I? So try again. Right. That should work now. So we can see now I've selected my valuation test and my warning has disappeared. As it happens, it's also related to existence and rights and obligations. So it makes sense that I would select those options as well. So again, it's just what we're trying to do is just link up some of that decision making that's done at the planning level with the work programs themselves, and so we get that overall view of how the audit is going to be undertaken. So that's the audit response table. I'll then move on to our risk library that we've now added. Now, as you can see at the top, we've got our standard risks that are in every audit, but then I've got a couple of risks here which I've added in from what we have is a risk library. So you'll see a new button here which says risk library. It's also available if you click on the plus button at the top where you're selecting a new risk, you can bring in a risk library. And what we've done here is just simply, for the moment, we've created a database of some risks that you may wish to be considering, may help the thought process as you're looking at an audit and assessing the risks in that particular entity. Again, just be aware, these aren't the ones that should just be brought in and, oh, that's it, we've covered our risks. These, you've got to be thinking about what you're doing here, and there needs to be adaptation and consideration of what that risk is actually all about. But as I said, we've given you a basic, at the moment, a basic database of about 90 risks or so. And what we've done is we've picked up from the PF2-2 document that Mercia have, where it considers internal controls to consider certain risks. So we've highlighted those risks as potentially being significant risks in the audit. We've also looked at the work programs themselves and considered some of the individual procedures which are looking at potentially addressing certain risks. And so we've brought those in as well. And we've been doing this with consideration and consultation with Mercia. They've certainly given some feedback onto some changes we made. And so at the moment we've come to that area of the list that we have. We obviously don't want too many, because too many just becomes a wall of noise, as it were, but equally too few, then it's not much point in having it. But what we are interested in is feedback from yourselves as to the content that we've got in the risk library. We can add in risks relating to specific entities, specific industries. So those are quite easily, we can add those in at the time. So again, this is something we can develop, and in consultation with yourselves and information and consideration from yourselves, we can expand what we've got in here. We've also got at the end a series of risks from IT risks, which are particularly highlighted in the ISA 315, as you know, from last year. So the ISA 315 has got an appendix with these type of risks in. So again, we've put those in for consideration as you're going through the audit, and you can filter those on the side here. But all you simply do to bring a risk in is click on it here. You'll see there's a little tick at the top, and as soon as you're ready to go, you can bring in those and add those to your engagement. And you'll see those have now been added to our engagement down here. So that's where we are at the moment with this. There are some other developments on risk libraries which are actually coming in with this update, for the next update that we're receiving on the platform, and I will be looking at that to see if we can utilize some more of the intelligence that can be built in to give some indicators and some suggestions potentially of procedures that you wish to consider based on the risks that you've selected. That's a future development, but at the moment we just have this this database for you to consider and to bring in to your audit. So hopefully, again, that's just an aid, perhaps an aid memoir type of thing for consideration of risks as you're going through any particular audit plan. And then those will interact with the rest of the system as any other risk, and you can adapt these. You know, these are just risks now that you can change, you can link up to your audit response, etc. So that's a risk library. And then finally, what I want to show you is the Partner Manager Summary document. Now, we have placed this right at the top of the document manager. So this document is there really to help partners and managers with their review of the file, to be able to focus down potentially on the most important areas that have been considered within the audit. And so this partner manager summary is split into 4 sections. We've got planning, risk assessment, response, fieldwork, and completion tabs. Under this planning document, we have the financial information. Now, this is basically the B23 information that you will have on data that is in your file. And this is, you can customize this a little bit of it. You can hide various widgets if you want, or you can expand them, or whatever you wish to do with it, and you can comment on them. So that is there as a summary, really, of the financials that are going on within the individual audit. You can shrink this up if it's getting in the way. That's easily done. You've also then got the overall engagement information. So basically, this is looking at the tailoring work that you've done, the tailoring form. You've selected your various options of what this file is all about, and that information will feed back here. And again, we can adapt this. At the moment, there's little adaptation that a user can do with this, but at the author level, we can adapt this and add other questions. So if there's any particular questions that you think are particularly pertinent that you would want to see feeding into this audit engagement, this information, we can add those as well. So again, feedback from this would be welcome in terms of how you would like to see this develop and be used going forward. But essentially, at the moment, we will put in here all the answers that you selected in the tailoring form. So at a glance, you can see what those decisions have been made. And then further down, we've got a section here which looks at any documents which require a specific role set. So that is any role set that is not a default role set. So the default is review, prepared, and manager review. That's our default list of review signatures. But if there are any with extra ones, particularly RI reviews or something like that, they will then appear here. This is for the planning section, of course. So any that have the planning, and at a glance, you can then see who has signed what at what time. There is a very minimal screen there, and then there's the additional details, and I quite like the additional details view. Now, if you then change any particular planning document, in this case, to look to be an extra review level that wouldn't normally have been there, so you perhaps added an RI review to one of those documents, that will then appear in here as well. So you'll know that the RI is required to have a look at it. And then also the engagement team, that's just popping in here as well, just as a brief summary that is filled out on the PF5 document that we introduced with our last update, I believe. Under risk assessment and response, you then have just a couple of sections here, just giving you basic numbers here, nothing else, but it's saying, look, these are the total number of risks you've got in the file. These are the significant risks. This is the fraud risks. No detail on that. If you want the detail, you'll still jump off to your risk report, and there's a link there to be able to do that. Similarly with controls, again, how many controls you've got, how many of those are key controls. And again, if you want any further detail, you can obviously go and have a look at the control reports. We then got the planned audit response. So that response table that we looked at, we're looking at, well, which areas have you actually selected to be tested? And so again, there's a very basic view of that, and then a slightly more detailed view, which becomes a bit more full in relation to all the assertions that you can see on the screen as well. But that will then again provide you with that detail that was in the audit response table. So it's saying, actually, within debtors in the C section, you are considering completeness and you're considering cutoff in terms of the work that you're going to be doing here. So there is a little bit of work to do on this visual at the top, as to actually see the values, the names of the assertions. But essentially, you can get that overall view of where the audit response is being made throughout the work in the file. And again, there is that document set at the bottom. Under field work, what we've done on each of the audit documents now, we have highlighted, we have change the responses that you can give on each audit procedure. So in the past, there was just an input area to record your audit work. We've now given you the option of having either it is completed, the procedure is completed with exceptions, or you're unable to complete. The work done will still be added in a cell at the bottom of each of those procedures. Now, if any of those are procedure results are then regarded as non-optimal, i.e. it's either completed with exceptions or unable to complete it, that will now feed through into this summary document. So you'll be able to see how, actually in the tax program, I got 4 non-optimal answers. So you can start focusing, where should I be focusing my review of this audit? Where is the risks relating to this audit? And so those will feed through here. Also, if you've changed the conclusion at all, so if you've had to put anything in that conclusion area, which isn't just simple, yes, we've concluded that the tax area is okay. If you put any other wording in there, that will feed through into here as well. So you can again focus on that. And again, if you think that the RI perhaps needs to really have a look at this document, you can change the role set on that document to include the RI, and then the RI will know there that they're meant to come in and review that file. So that's all been added to the fieldwork section. And then completion, I'll come to the issues bit in a second. The adjustments, very similar to the risks and the controls that we're looking at, just a list of the adjustments that you've got. If you've overridden any documents visibility in the file at all throughout the file, that will show up here as well. And also any documents that have been modified after you sign them off. You can then go back into that document, you can look at the review tools, use the review tools, and you can see the changes that were made since that document was last signed off. So again, that type of information is all feeding through into this new form. And again, you've got your documents with specific role sets. But I'll finish now with this issues at the top. We know that there are difficulties at the moment with the issues panel, as it were. It's difficult to navigate around to make changes, etc. That is again being worked on at the platform level. However, this form allows you to do a bit more manipulation with those issues. So you can see here I've got 7 outstanding and 1 resolved. I can also filter now. I can filter on the type of issue that I'm looking at. So if it's just issues relating to errors, or let's just deselect everything. And if it was just relating to errors, I can select that one and that will just pop up. I can also filter this on the date that those were raised, also by the user that raised those issues. So all those can be now filtered down, and you can get a summary potentially here of those individual issues that are outstanding. And that's essentially it. That's what I wanted to go through with you. I'll just mention one last little thing here at the bottom. Most of you will have seen this, all being well, if you've been using this over the last few weeks. We've added this little resource center button where you can find your latest information about the template that you are in at the time. So we will have in here, we'll be able to tell you about our product enhancements, that we've released a new version of CloudBridge, for instance. That's there. Any release notes for the product, they will be available from this point. Any other resources and our contact. And so what we will do prior to the release of this template now, we will provide you with an update that it is coming so that you can prepare for that update. So if you've got a custom template, for instance, and you wish to prepare files before you get the update, or you want to be able to know that you need to update your custom template, that information will appear in this resource center prior to us actually releasing the templates to you. So keep a lookout on there. You'll get a little notification, a little one will pop up, or two, or however many extra notifications you've got the next time you go into the file, so you'll be aware of what is just coming. And I think that's it. And I think my time is up. I've got a question there. We can deal with that, I think.
Thanks, John. That was perfect timing, actually, because I was just about to switch back to my slides so that we have our reminder of how you can log a question. Hopefully you can see that now. Yes, so to use the Q&A option there. But yes, questions coming in. Will the updates impact engagement files that have already been created?
So no, at the moment there isn't the ability to update previous engagement files that are in progress already. That is something that is actually being worked on, but is a later development. Excuse me. So it won't have any impact. What we call builder forms does impact back, but what we've created with the sampling forms, which are builder forms, those actually are new forms, so there'll be new documents within the file, so they won't impact any files that have happened in the past. And when likely to be rolled out, I think is the next one. That we are looking for the start of June to be able to release this into UK Company Audit and Republic of Ireland very soon after that.
Thanks, John. I think we haven't got any more questions coming.
And that's Company Audit and Republic of Ireland. The specialist templates are going to follow on one after another after that. I think we're starting with LLP. We'll probably bring Academy in next because that's obviously the most time sensitive one. And the Academy one will have full ISO 600, even though Academy's year ended 31st of August 2024 aren't under the requirement of ISO 600. Mercia have put that into their manual, and so this will go into that as well.
Perfect. Thank you, John. So we are, I'm just going to go through the wrap up now. So thanks everyone for hanging on for another couple of minutes. We will get back to you with written answers to your questions in a Q&A document. Any other questions that you continue to log now, you can do so, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Just a reminder, if you go to caseware.com/UK/resources/events, then you can sign up for our future sessions, as you probably have done for today. In terms of additional guidance, a bit of signposting here, you may be aware that we have a LinkedIn page. So if you go to Client Services Caseware UK Limited, follow us on LinkedIn for notifications about upcoming sessions, any updates, any timely guidance for anything that's going on within the business. We've also got Client Services Caseware UK YouTube channel. So if you head over to there and subscribe and set your notifications, we'll let you know when there's new recordings of webinar sessions, quick vids, that kind of thing. And finally, if you go over to help.caseware.co.uk, you'll find all of our articles, and you'll also find quick vids and, again, webinar recordings. The article for this session, including the Q&A and the recording, will be up there in the next day or so. So keep an eye out on there. So that brings us to the end of the session. Thanks very much for joining us today. We hope you found it useful. Take care.
Just gonna say, Tom.
Sure.
You know, if you forgot all those links and everything, it's on that resource center. You can go.
It's on the resource center.
It's brilliant. It's in there.
Yes.
It's in the file already.
Yeah, keep an eye on there. Click on the resource center for some context-sensitive guidance in there as well. On certain pages, we have guidance for what you're looking at. So yes, thanks very much. Take care, and we'll see you on the next session.
Thank you. Bye.